Hello, I'm James Davis and this video is about integrated STEM. I'm going to be focusing on a case study of an authentic inquiry context to illustrate how an integrated STEM transdisciplinary team might operate and how the different disciplines might fit together. So the study I'm looking at today is part of a larger study that was conducted in a hospital as a clinical health investigation. The larger study was looking at the effect of hospital admission physiological variables on stroke outcome. And one of the variables that was seen to potentially impact physiological variables and stroke outcome was the nutritional status of patients prior to and at the time that they had their stroke. And so we set up a sub-study to investigate the effect of pre-morbid nutrition on stroke outcome. And that's the study that we're looking at today. So as you can see here, the transdisciplinary team comprised of myself as a clinical nurse consultant in research, a statistician, a group of neurologists with specializations in stroke, muscular dystrophy and Parkinson's disease, and a medical registrar. Now looking at the data collection, because this gives us an idea of the transdisciplinary methods that we used within this study. Firstly, we've got the neurological examination, which is a medical examination using the NIH stroke score. We've also used the modified Rankin scale, which was one of the outcomes of the study. So that's one of the outcome measures that we looked at to measure the recovery from stroke. And it's a measure of functional bodily movements and draws from the physical or physiotherapy area of healthcare. It appears quite frequently in the stroke research because it's quite a common measure used to measure the recovery of patients. And then to look at the measurement of nutritional status, we used the tool known as Subjective Global Assessment. And this is an instrument that draws from the area of dietetics, and it's a nutritional status score that is based on a nutritional history taken from the patient or from interviewing their family, and also a physical examination of the patient at the time of entry to the hospital and ongoing over the duration of the study. And so to put this data collection regime together, the researchers in this situation had to go out and investigate these different methods. The MRS wasn't too distant from us, but we certainly went and did some refresher training with the physiotherapists to make sure that we were using the modified Rankin scale correctly. And we also went out to another hospital where the SGA was commonly used by a group of dietitians to learn how to apply the SGA in a clinical environment, to understand how to measure accurately the nutritional status of patients. And then we went through some training to do some inter-rater reliability tests on these different measures. And the same for me, not coming from a medical background, was the need to be trained up in the use of the neurological examination, the NIH-SS. So there was this skill development and bringing together methods from different disciplines that could help us in understanding the nature of nutrition and stroke within the context of our study. And these transdisciplinary methods also flowed through to the statistical analysis. So we brought on board a statistician because some of the statistics that we were using were quite complex, and we needed that sort of extra advice to be able to analyze the data. And the statistician was involved early in the piece because he was there to make sure that we were measuring the right things the right way so that we can then do the analysis that we wanted to do further down the track. So getting that statistician in was really important quite early in the piece. And so from an analysis point of view, the statistician provided us with advice on the techniques that we could use up front, that gave us different options for analysis. He also, after we collected the data and started doing our analysis using SPSS, which is what the medical registrar and the clinical nurse consultant did, went back to the statistician for a review of the data and just to confirm that we're on the right track in the application of these analytical methods. And of course, the senior physicians on this team, the neurologists, also had input, particularly at the early stages, to make sure that we were getting the right empirical measures set up and aligned with the analytical measures. So the outcomes of this study. So the outcomes of this study were very much transdisciplinary, as were the people and the methods that were used. And as you can see here, the results suggest that strategies aimed at improving premorbid nutrition in the population at risk for stroke may improve stroke outcomes. So in that sense, there is a health promotion aspect to it in terms of educating the public that maintaining a nutrition as you get older, as you fall into a stroke risk category, that there is a public health promotion aspect to it, and including screening. So that could involve primary health care in terms of general practitioners, and that screening and health promotion is likely to take place at home, which is leading into having to educate community health services around this research that we did, and also in supported aged care facilities. So you can see the transdisciplinary nature of the outcomes that have come out of this study. And this is because the study, the major outcome of that study, was that nutrition was found to be a modifiable risk factor, and probably the most important modifiable risk factor in stroke survival and recovery. So the final part of my presentation is looking at the team and investigation structure. There is no single way of doing STEM investigations. The example I've provided today is one example that I've had some experience with, but the key to this is to be creative. Develop the issues, questions, and investigation designs together, because your ideas will influence each other. And think about the possibility for different disciplinary contributions to each of the sub-studies that are done. Also, is shared data collection a possibility, and with that, shared analysis? Because if you can collect a large bunch of data which reflects the transdisciplinary team, you can then use that same body of data to then draw your sub-studies from the overall investigation data. It makes data collection much more efficient. It generally gives you more data to analyse, and it ensures that you have a truly transdisciplinary approach to the whole project. So that might mean that a biology person is helping to collect physics data, and both of them are helping to collect chemistry data, and so on, around a particular issue. And in the example that I've just given you here, basically the data collection was done by myself as a nurse and the registrar, medical registrar, and we used methods from different disciplines in order to collect that data, and we collected a single body of data that we then analysed and took on responsibility for analysing different sections of that data. So the other thing is, could your skills be applied to multiple studies? And does your report need to be focused on one study, or could it be about your contribution to several interrelated studies, particularly for someone coming from a maths background, where you might be able to provide consulting support for a number of different studies from a statistics point of view? On that, could you divide the final reports up as different perspectives from the same study as well? It's another way of thinking about it. And finally, does your report need to be about the topic of the investigation? You will find in STEM investigations that quite often the research question that you start with will change. It changes for a number of reasons quite often. But one of those reasons it quite often changes is you get to a point in the investigation where the methods that you thought you might be able to use aren't quite working for you. And so you end up doing sub-studies on the investigation methods and techniques to develop new techniques to enable you to then move on towards your ultimate goal of doing your original questions. So quite often the STEM investigation report might not be about the topic that you start out on, but about the investigation methods and techniques that you had to develop along the way. So I'll leave this to you to have a think about. It's a complex area. There's no single right answer. The team structure and the investigation structure needs to be tailored to the context of the investigation at hand, and that's what makes integrated STEM and working with transdisciplinary teams a lot of fun.